Hi everyone, welcome to the fourth episode of Live with Google for Nonprofits. My name is Alessia, I'm a program manager at Google for Nonprofits. Today we're gonna talk about how to manage your inboxes. So we're gonna share a few tips and tricks to have a clean and perfect inbox. My colleague Meredith is going to walk you through a lot of demos today, so stay tuned. We have piloted this Live with Google for Nonprofits episode during the past few months. We received great engagement. So the good news is that we are going to continue Live with Google for Nonprofit next year. If you check on our channel, you can find the recordings of all our past episodes. Last time we talked about inclusive meetings. You'll also find episode about Giving Tuesday, and then online learning with applied digital skills. So I encourage you to check our channel. Subscribe if you always want to be updated on what's new and what's happening next, and also enable the notifications. You can use the chat on your right to ask questions. Meredith at the end will save some time to answer questions live, but we also have our great team that is going to answer questions in the chat as well. So with that said, I'm gonna pass this over to Meredith, who's going to start the live demo.
All right, thank you so much, Alessia. Hello, everyone. Excited to be hosting and to talk about an area that's near and dear to my heart, which is what does it look like to get to inbox zero? This is how I manage my own inbox, and we wanted to share a bunch of tips with you as everyone's sort of, wrapping up their year and hopefully maybe getting some time off over the holidays and planning for coming back in January, being refreshed and ready to go, and hopefully having an inbox that's organized and makes you feel a little bit more zen at that point. So we're gonna go ahead and share an example inbox. So this is not my current inbox. I only have 43 emails here, but if your inbox looks like this and has a lot more emails, maybe you have thousands, and I know that that's true for people, we're gonna talk a bit about how you can get a little bit of decluttering space and time with some tips. So first and foremost, we are going into the holiday season. If you're taking some time off in the next week or two, you might want to think about setting your vacation out of office. So what does that look like? In Gmail, if you head on up here to the little gear in the top right, you're gonna see some quick settings, which you can always play with at your leisure. But if you go to see all settings, there's a bunch more detail here. And on the very first tab here under General, if you scroll down, you'll see an option for setting your vacation responder. So there's a lot of great different ways that you can do this. I actually personally just did this for my own email and set it to start tomorrow. So let's say, like me, that you're taking a bunch of time off over the holidays. It's been a really busy, really crazy year for a lot of people. I'm gonna set my vacation responder to start tomorrow on the 18th. And I'm actually gonna set a last day. You don't have to, because you can always come back into your Gmail settings and turn vacation responder off. But if you wanna make sure that it doesn't keep going, even when you're back checking email, let's say you're coming back on the 4th of January, right? I'm gonna have my autoresponder turn off on the 3rd, because hopefully no one's emailing me on a Sunday anyway. And I'm gonna say, out of office. I'm gonna put this in quotes, because let's be honest, we're all out of the office until the new year. And here, oftentimes best practice is to let folks know that you're out of office and what day you'll be back, and then what sort of the contact options are for you. On our team, a lot of times we'll say if there's someone else that the person can contact, or in the case of if your organization uses chat or things like that, you could always say, hey, you can get a hold of me on chat, or here's my cell phone number if it's really an emergency. I'm just going to keep it plain and simple and say I'm out of office until January 4th. I will answer your email when I return. So live typing. So I'm not sending this person who's potentially emailing me anywhere else. We'll just call it and say, I'll get back to them in 2 weeks. Now, the options that you have after this point First, you can only send a response to people that are in your contacts. Up to you if you want to use this as an option. If you tend to get a lot of emails from folks external to your organization, you might want to keep this unchecked. You can also choose only to send a response to people in your domain. So this is our demo nonprofits account, which is why it says that here. But imagine that your G Suite or your workspace account for your organization is at mynonprofit.org. If you click this box, this autoresponder will actually only send to people that also have that domain and also have an email at that domain. This can be helpful if your response in your out of office is really specific to something internal. So you may not want to tell everyone your cell phone number, for example, to text you, but you may want to set a vacation responder that tells your coworkers how to get a hold of you if they need to. So I'm going to click Save Changes here and show you what this looks like. So remember, I set my vacation responder to start tomorrow. When I save changes, nothing looks different, and that's working as intended. If instead I had actually set my vacation responder because I'm out of office today, if we go back in to see all settings and we scroll all the way down, I'm going to change this first day to be today, the 17th. Let's say I'm coming back the same day, and I'm going to save changes. Now at the top, you see this yellow bar that says out of office until the new year. That's the subject line. And if someone sent an email to me, they would actually get that out of office response. So if you want to end it, you can just click end now here, or you can always click this vacation settings link and that'll take you back to the page that I just showed you. So I'm going to end this because I'm not out of office quite yet. So you have your out of office set, you're kind of getting ready, you're still preparing, right? You may also want to think about modifying your email signature. So if, like me, you're still working today, tomorrow, maybe a couple of days next week, you may just want to preemptively let folks know in your email signature that you're going to be out for a number of days. Or you may actually have something that's kind of fun to share, maybe your organization's end of year sort of wrap up newsletter, or any exciting news about, the donations and fundraising that you've been doing this month. So if you want to set a signature for your email, right now, if I go to compose, you'll see that my email is blank. I don't have a signature set up. So I'm going to go ahead, go into settings, and click see all settings. And that same general tab, if you scroll partway down, not all the way to that vacation responder section, whoops, I skipped it. Here we go, signature. And you'll see a little create new button. So I'm going to name my new signature, I guess, work 1. Perhaps you can have more than one signature if you're interested in that. And you'll have a box here that allows you to just type straight in if you want. You'll put your name. You can put your role, organization name. And you could save it just like this. And some of this functionality lets you modify the text size, shape, all of that, font. A best practice I would suggest, though, is actually to create your signature in a Google Doc or any other kind of format and design it there and then copy that into this box. So I'll show you what I mean. If I come up here to Drive and I open my Drive, I actually have an example nonprofit email signature template that I created. So I'm going to open this up. And here it is. It's a little small. Zoom in. So imagine your nonprofit has a logo, maybe you have your work phone number, your email. Sometimes nonprofit, signatures just in general can include things like social media links or that kind of thing. So this is just an example template that I created. The sneaky trick here, if I highlight this, is that this is actually a table. I made a table with 2 cells, 1 cell for this picture and 1 cell for this text. And I just formatted it all in Google Docs. I added in my nonprofit logo, I changed the font color and bolding. So all I need to do if I want this to be my signature in my email is highlight it. Just going to right click, copy that. I'm going to go back over to this empty space. I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste. And there it is. So I'm going to go ahead and I was going to say save this. I think it's automatically saved. Oh, save changes. Always check. You know what? I skipped a step. This is why we always have to check. So I'm going to come back down here to my signature. Where did it go? Default text, scrolling too fast. There we go. So I skipped the defaults piece of this. So you need to set your signature defaults because you remember I could create multiple signatures here. I'm going to just keep it simple and say for all new emails, use work one. And if I'm ever replying or forwarding, use the same signature. And I'm going to go ahead and check the box to insert this before the quoted text, because that will make sure that my signature always appears right below the response I'm putting in an email, as opposed to way at the very bottom if it's a big thread. And the last thing I'm going to show you is, if you're thinking about kind of a vacation notice for people, one option can be in your signature to just type in, please note, I will be out of office until the new year. And maybe we make this a little bit smaller, and maybe we make it italics. Just as a quick FYI to folks when I'm sending them emails today. Okay, so I'm going to scroll to the bottom and click Save. And now, if I email Alessia, for example, and I want to send her a note, I can include, here's my whole signature, and here's that quick note that I made about being out of office until the new year. You could also share an upcoming exciting article or something happening in Q1. Sometimes we see people share news and links and things like that that they want to be sort of inobtrusively included in emails that they send. Okay, so we have our signature. We have some notes on being out of office here. We have our out of office set up. What's next? If you are working through the last couple of action items that you have before you're taking off for a little while, you might have emails that you're getting ready to send. So there's a bunch of stuff you might be trying to wrap up today, tomorrow. But you know that, like most other folks, the people you're sending these emails to are probably out of office or otherwise just not going to respond right away. Scheduling your emails to send later can be an amazing trick to actually getting the action item off of your plate and your to-do list. You wrote the email, you shared the document or whatever it is, and Gmail will take care of hanging on to that draft and sending it whenever you tell it. So I have a draft email that I wrote a little bit ago. Well, I just wrote this one, but here's a draft email that I wrote to Alessia about our 2021 marketing plan. And I'm excited about working with her on it. Here's a first draft. This is something that we often do at Google, but you can do it anywhere if you're using G Suite, is to link to the Google Doc that you want somebody to take a look at. You don't necessarily have to attach it. As long as Alessia has access to this doc I've linked, she can open it from here. And I'm saying, hey, I'd love for you to review and provide comments by January 10th. There's a lot of time for this. Maybe Alessia is already even out of office, and I don't want to add more email to her plate for when she comes back. So what I can do, instead of clicking send now and shooting this off to her and adding to her inbox backup, is I can click this little button to the right of send and click schedule send. Lots of options. I'm going to pick a date and time in the future because I know that Alessia is going to be out of office for the holidays. So I'm going to have this send to her on January 4th. Let's say we'll do it at 12 o'clock. So she'll get it midday. Maybe she's back on the 4th. She's going to work through her email backlog. Then she'll be fresh and ready to go. And once I click schedule send, you'll get a note down here telling you when you scheduled that email to send. And you'll see that it disappeared out of my drafts. So it's not a draft email anymore. It is waiting in the scheduled list over here. And you can see the 1/4/21, whoops, to the right of the text of the email saying the date that it's going to send. So this can be a really great trick if you want to get through lots of your action items, but you kind of know that you're just going to add to, the backlog of backlog of emails that your coworkers are going to come back to. Schedule those emails to send when folks are back from the holidays. Okay, now we are going to dig into one of my favorite things. So imagine that you have set up your out of office. You've scheduled all your emails to send sometime in the future. Now you're just trying to figure out, how do I end the year in box 0, right? Or close to it. How do I organize all this stuff that's in here, right? I have a lot of emails going back a long time. There's some stuff in here from 2019 and 2018 that I still haven't taken care of. So labels and filtering are going to be your huge tool to be able to organize some of these emails. Labels are a bit like folders in your email system, but better, because an email can have more than one label. So let's take an example. I know, for example, that I get a bunch of emails from this nonprofit marketing group at my organization. And they're all important, and I need to read them, but I don't necessarily, it's not that easy to see them kind of in the flow of all my email, and they might be the kind of thing that I actually just want to sit down and action all at one time. So what I'm going to do is create a label for this type of email, particularly from this group. So there's two different ways to create labels. The easiest way, if you're just going through and cleaning up your inbox like this, is to click the emails that you want to label and come up here. You see this little labels button. And if I click it, I'll see kind of the default labels that Google gives you, but I'm going to ignore these and I'm going to create a new label here. If I click create new, I'm going to call these marketing, and I'm not going to nest them under anything. It's going to be its own label, and I'm going to click create. And you can see right away that two things happened. Both of these emails got a marketing label, and a new marketing label showed up in my left-hand navigation. So these are still in my inbox. They're still unread. And I also can access them by going to this marketing label and looking at them. Let's imagine that I'm not really ready to reorganize things yet. I just kind of want to label everything. So that's fine. You've taken care of the labeling as a starting point. I'm also going to label a couple of emails that I knew came through from Isha. She sent me an email that she said was an interesting article. So I'm going to come back to that later. I think I want to set aside some time to read that particular email. I'm also going to label a couple of newsletters that I tend to get from outside organizations. So Philanthropy News Digest, great, kind of more informational. I want to set aside separate time to read that. Maybe news articles if you get news to your inbox, things like The Guardian. I'm going to create another label for these, and I'm going to label it something like read through. I want to set aside some time to just read this stuff. So I could create the label up here, as I showed you before, but I'm also going to show you a different way to create labels, which is if you go to that settings button at the top and you click see all settings here, you can go to the labels tab just to the right of general and see all the labels that you have. Here's that marketing label I just created, and I could create a new label here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a read through, through label, and I'm going to click create. And you can see there's no conversations associated with it yet because I haven't labeled anything. And now I'm going to go back to my inbox. I'm going to grab those three emails I mentioned. So my news and the interesting article from Isha. I'm going to click the label button and I'm going to, oh, there it is, read through. I was like, gosh, I thought I just made this. And now I'm just going to click read through from the list. So now you can kind of see different things labeled in different ways. If, like me, you're very visual and everything in gray is not a good way to do it for you, I'm going to make marketing pink. And I'm going to make read through, let's make it yellow. So now visually I can see the distinction in my inbox. So that's a starting point. Helps you organize. You can have things in more than one label if you want to. So you could have something that's marketing and read through. You can really be flexible with how you use it. But the next step you want to think about is actually moving things out of your inbox so that when you choose, I'm going to sit down and read through something, you just open that read through label and see all the things that you need. And it doesn't clutter up your inbox necessarily with things that you're going to action at a different time. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. Let's imagine, let's keep our three read through, that I know we'll get to these. I'm not going to do it right now, and I kind of want to clear them out of my inbox. So I'm just going to click archive. Now this sounds scary. This doesn't get rid of the emails. It doesn't delete them. Once I click this, they're going to disappear out of my inbox. But if you see over here, it still says read through, and it still says 3. And if I click, all 3 of these emails that I mentioned earlier show up and are still unread. So nothing's disappeared, nothing's gone anywhere. I can click through to Isha's email, take a look, and I can say, you know what, amazing, I read this, great article. I'm done with it now, and I actually don't even necessarily need to keep it because this article, we'll come back to it at a later time, but I don't need this in my email anymore. And I can remove this label from the conversation. And now it's gone out of read through. It's also gone out of my inbox, right? So that's kind of how I have actioned that particular set of emails. Now, if, like me, you get a lot of emails from groups or newsletters, and they're always going to come in, maybe every day, maybe multiple times a day, and you always want them to be labeled in a certain way, that's where filtering comes in. So if you remember my nonprofit marketing group that I get these emails from, I label them both in marketing. So I'm going to go ahead and archive these as well out of my inbox. Remember, my inbox number is going down. This is positive. They're in the marketing label, so I can always come back here and see them. But imagine I want every single email I ever get from this nonprofit marketing team group to have this label, and maybe also to always skip my inbox and always just go to the label for me to look at later. That's what filtering does. So I'll show you how to set up a filter. 2 different ways to set up a filter. There's lots of different ways to do most of these steps. If you check the email, I want to filter things that look like this email, and you come to the top to this little 3 dots more menu. Filter messages like these is where you want to go. So Gmail will sort of helpfully provide you with some options for how to do this filter. I'm going to go ahead and just say, you know what? I know that every single email from nonprofit marketing team at nonprofitsdemo.org is always going to be an email I want to have that label applied to. Like, imagine that you always get a particular newsletter or something like that from a particular email. I'm going to say I always want to take this email, and I'm going to create a filter with it down here. You could pick certain context in the subject line or has the words. You could pick emails of a certain size. Just be aware if you pick things like has the words, sometimes you can end up with things inadvertently filtered into that list. Your best options are really specific from specific aliases or with very specific subject lines. So I'm going to create this filter, and I'm going to pick a couple of characteristics to do with this filter. So for me, as a starting point, I always want to apply the label marketing. Remember that label that we created. You could also always mark the emails as important. You could always delete them if you want to. You could ensure that they never get sent to spam. Maybe you have someone who, for whatever reason, their emails always end up in your spam folder and you want to make sure they never do. You could always mark it as read. So you have many options here. But the important thing is when you're doing this big inbox cleanup that hopefully you're thinking about doing before the end of the year, you can click this button at the bottom that says always apply filter to the matching conversations. So if I had, let's say, 50 emails in my inbox from this group and I clicked this button, it would automatically label all 50 of those. So I'm going to go ahead and create this filter. And nothing's going to change here because I had already kind of manually picked these 2 as marketing, right? Now, the next step is I'm going to decide, do I just want it to filter everything in my inbox or do I want it to move things around? And I think we already talked about, I want to move these nonprofit marketing group emails out of my inbox right away and straight into this marketing label. I'm going to go back to that filter I just created, and let me show you how to do that. Go to settings, see all settings. Whoops. Let's try that again. We're going to go to settings. We're going to go to filters and blocked addresses. So this tab, a couple tabs over from general. And you can see, whoops, I did this twice. I'm going to delete this one for the purposes of being streamlined here. So here's this filter that I created, and I told it to apply the label marketing. I'm going to edit this. So it's going to show me the email that I filtered. It's going to show me that I said apply the label marketing. I'm actually going to say skip the inbox. Just go straight into the marketing label. Don't even show up in my inbox. And I'm going to update this filter. So if I go back to my inbox and I ask my colleague Alessia to maybe send me an email from that group will see it should show up in marketing. And this number should go, whoops, this number just to the left of my cursor should go from 2 to 3. And I should have a new email from the nonprofit marketing group that actually never came into my inbox, but did end up exactly where I wanted it to go, which was into the marketing labels so that I can action it at a future time. So we'll give Alessia a little bit of time to magically send me that email and for it to magically arrive in my inbox. And then I'll show you from there how we actually use the concepts of labeling and of filtering to create multiple inboxes. And don't worry, multiple inboxes sounds scary. It's the key to using your inbox to sort of set up what you need to action, what you're waiting on from other people, what you need to read through and engage with in the future. All right. Excellent. So we refreshed, and now I magically have 3, if you can see it to the left of my cursor. Didn't show up in my inbox, went straight to marketing, and Alessia just sent this email at 12:28 p.m. Pacific time. So that's what it looks like to filter something, skip that inbox, and archive it into the label that you care about. Okay, so this is what multiple inboxes looks like. Let's show you the steps. Here's a normal inbox, your list of emails all in a row, organized by date for the most part. If you want multiple inboxes, click on the settings and click See All Settings again. And you'll see up here in Inbox, so 2 tabs over from General, a bunch of options for how to organize your inbox. So right now I'm set to default. And you can see there's lots of options, right? You could have unread first, you could have starred or priority. I'm going to click multiple inboxes. And now, interestingly, I have 5 different sections that I can set up alongside your normal incoming email inbox. So I'm going to make one of the sections for that marketing label that I just created, and I'm going to make another section for read through. So how do you set up the sections? Each section is associated with a label. So you can see here, section 1, we're going to make this label. I'm going to delete the word strategy. I'm just going to borrow the exact same text as the label, marketing. And then you can name the section whatever you want. So I'm going to say marketing action items, because I want them all to go in one place. And my second section, which is going to show up for me to the right of my inbox, I'm going to make this be the read through label that I just created with those articles. So the label is going to be, just type label with a colon, and then it's going to be read through. Same text as the label. And then in the section name, I'm going to just say read later. If you're like me and you like to sit down in the morning, with your cup of tea or coffee and just sort of get started reading things, this can be a really great way to just go to that part of your inbox. So you can scroll down and see some of the other features throughout. You can see how many conversations show up for the different sections if you want a lot versus a little. You can move the position of your other inboxes. So I'm going to keep right of the inbox checked, and you'll see what that looks like, but you could always have above or below. When you have multiple inboxes turned on, you don't have a reading pane, which is something that I think sometimes folks who've used Outlook are used to. So keep that in mind. You'll have to click into an email to read it. And last but not least, I'm not going to override filters. I'm going to keep everything the way it is, and I'm going to click Save Changes. And you guys are going to see what this looks like. Aha! So now all of a sudden, I have a lot going on, right? I have my inbox on the left, my normal inbox that everyone already saw. Then I have 2 more sections. I have marketing action items with those 3 emails, same emails that are in this label if I click here. I also have my read later from The Guardian and Philanthropy News Digest. And if, like me, you want to know, what do I need to do today? One thing that you can think about doing is creating multiple inboxes on the right or above or below, depending on the layout you want, and then filtering everything into the right place, and then using your inbox sort of as your to-do list. So I'll show you what this looks like. We already talked about read later. Here's another Philanthropy News Digest. It's a news article. I could make a filter for this, or I could just, as I'm cleaning up my inbox, say, you know what? I want to put this in read through. See how it shows up over here? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click archive on this PND news. It's going to disappear out of my left-hand inbox, and it's only going to be in my read later. So now I'm moving things around. I'm organizing what's otherwise kind of a crazy unorganized inbox, right? So that I have all the things I want to read later in one place. So I'm going to check out, this review proposal that Fiona sent me. That's great. If she wants me to review it, I'm going to go ahead and decide to read through that on a later date. So I'm going to apply and hit archive. And now Fiona's email is over here. And if I know that I'm going to get to read later eventually, but I don't even want to see it right now, I can just click the little chevron. Read later doesn't go anywhere, just visually cleans things up for me. Last but not least, the one thing that I do, so now, for example, if I get another nonprofit marketing group email, it's going to automatically show up over here in marketing action items because this part of my inbox is defined by that marketing label. So the last thing I'm going to show you, and then we'll hop over to Q&A, questions from folks, any other ideas or thoughts people want to see demoed. I'm going to show you my tip. And I learned this from somebody else at Google who is a productivity guru. And I learned it probably, well, gosh, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. It like changed my life. Is having part of your, let's go to labels, having part of your inbox be a to-do list. So I'm going to create a new label because remember, multiple inboxes are defined by those labels. And this label is going to be just to-do, really straightforward. And now I'm going to go to my inbox tab, and I'm going to create a section. Well, in a normal world where I want this in a different order, it would have been section 1 for me, but we'll make it section 3. It's fine. Can always move it later. And I'm going to make this to do, and I'm just going to call this, to do. We'll keep it straightforward. So now what I can do, so you'll see my to-do box here has nothing in it, is I can very quickly every morning, a couple times a day, depending on your setup, go through my incoming email and just quickly filter it into the right place. Is this something I have to read right now or can I read it later? Great, put it in the read later folder. Is it a marketing action item? Great, put it in the marketing action item kind of area and look at that inbox later. And for me, I use the to-do part of my multiple inboxes to just say, I need to action this pretty quick, like basically this week. So I can move a bunch of stuff into that to-do list. So I'm going to say, Eric's asking for feedback. Fiona would like me to look at this feature request. And I'm going to say that this upcoming volunteer training I have to review. And maybe Alessia needs an update on the donations that we've been capturing this month. All of these I have to action this week or maybe before the end of the day. I'm going to label them all to do. And I'm going to archive them over to my to-do list. And now, if you really want to get, you could make the to-do label like really bright red or something like that so that as you're moving things and archiving them, you can see where they're going. So you can slowly start to pare down what seems like a really intractable number of emails in your inbox into stuff that's more actionable for you. The other tip I will say, this is one of my favorites as well, you can create part of your inbox that is emails you are waiting for other people to respond to. And I know that sounds a little bit silly, but for example, if I have a proposal and I'm waiting for Fiona to give me feedback via email, I don't want to forget that I've asked her to give me feedback because maybe Fiona's busy and it's going to take her a little while and I may need to ping her again. But I also don't want it cluttering up my inbox. I can create a label, and I have this in my own inbox personally, that's called waiting. And I will filter messages that I've sent into that waiting folder. And like once a week, I'll just pull it up and look and see like, oh, do I need to ping this email again to remind this person? And once Fiona responds with her feedback, I take it out of waiting. It's gone out of my inbox, or maybe it goes into my to-do. So all tips for how to think about organizing things and moving them around. And remember, once you're done with your to-do list, right? So Alessia wants to know about our plan to increase donations. Let's say that I've worked on it, I reply, or Working on it. Also love that my signature is showing up. I can send this, or remember, I can schedule it to send later. And then maybe I take it out of my to-do. Well, this is maybe a bad example because if I'm going to get back to her in January, it's probably still on my to-do list. But imagine that I just linked the plan and I said, hey, I already have a plan. Here it is. All I have to do is click to remove this label. And if I go back to my inbox, my to-do list is now getting shorter. So that's how you should definitely think about coordinating, organizing, and I hope that you have a lot of fun moving things around in your email. If you get stuck, you've never deleted anything, right? Like as I showed you, when you archive out of your inbox, it ends up in a label. If you take the label off, where does the email go? If you click the little chevron to the left on your left-hand pane and look at more, you can always look in all mail. Everything you've ever had is in here. Oh my gosh, it's all in one place. You can also check trash if instead of archiving something, you might have deleted it. But unless you've literally gone to your trash and clicked to empty it, your email's never gone. It's just moved around to different parts of the experience. Okay, I'm going to hop over and see if there are any questions. And I see as a starting point that we had a live question from Terry. How and where do you add contacts and create groups? Excellent question. So if I wanted to create a group, so that nonprofit marketing group that I created, you actually do that in Google Groups. So there's two different ways to get there. One is just in a Chrome browser, just open a new browser, and it's groups.google.com. And then when you click through, if you're logged in to your G Suite account or your workplace account as a nonprofit organization, you'll be taken to the groups interface. And it looks like this. So there's the group that I was showing you all. So this is where you'd create a new group. The other option is if you go up to this little 9-dot icon up here and click it, you can see all the other connected apps associated with your G Suite or workplace account. And if you scroll down, you'll see groups. And here's where you'll also see contacts, and you can start building out your contacts in that way as well. All right. Another live question. Can you just drag and drop from your inbox to the other folders? An excellent question. I actually don't know the answer, so we're going to try it live. What do we want to filter? Eric's notes from our last team meeting. If I grab this and I pull it over to read through, it works. So yes, I love it. This is what we have to do live. I learned filtering and labels and multiple inboxes a long time ago. So I have like keyboard shortcuts and stuff that I use, but yes, you can drag and drop as well. And I'm not sure if you can do it with more than one email at the same time. Let's try. What if we want to take Eric's, let's get a good example. Fiona's vacation schedule and Fiona's happy holidays. And let's see if we move them both to, oh yeah, you can do it with more than one email. Well, there you go. Excellent live demonstration of dragging and dropping. All right. Any other thoughts or questions? Happy to cover other things. Alessia, do you have any favorite email tips that you use in your own Gmail?
Yes, I use a lot the important label.
Yeah.
It's automatic, so you can actually teach to the system what's important for you.
Yep.
And that's very useful to me.
Yeah, that's a great one. So you can see it's this little chevron, I guess it's a chevron to the right of the star. And when you click it, you get a little kind of interstitial that says, click to teach your, so demo nonprofits is our kind of domain, but your account that this conversation is or is not important. So if I said like everything from Isha is important, then probably over time, when Isha's emails come in, they're actually going to be marked as important. And if you remember in the email settings, when I showed you in inbox, so I have multiple inboxes set up right now, but you can have an inbox type that is important first. And so that will divide the emails you've marked as important and that kind of Gmail learns over time you care about as slightly separate from everything else that comes into your inbox. So that can be a slightly different way of organizing. Yeah, that's a really good one. Whoops, now I need to leave settings, so I'm going to cancel. Other thoughts, Alessia?
I think there is another question.
Oh yeah, excellent.
Could you show people how to enable the reminder to reply?
Oh, is that the nudge? Is that what we think?
I think so.
Okay. So if you go into your settings, in the general tab, there is a lot of really good stuff in here. I would highly recommend you play around with a lot of the different features and functionality. I believe that the nudge reminder is in here. Yeah, okay. So if you scroll down about partway down the page, you'll see nudges and you can click to learn more. You'll get a little pop-up that tells you more about what nudges are. This is actually really good to know as well. All the stuff where it says learn more throughout Gmail will pop up a Help Center article that walks you through that feature in more detail. So nudges will both suggest emails to reply to. So something that Gmail thinks is important that it seems like you just didn't respond to. And we all know this happens, like things get kind of quote unquote lost in people's inboxes. Nudges will also suggest emails to follow up on. So if I send something to Alessia and it's been a couple of days, sometimes it'll nudge and it'll show up on the top of your inbox and just basically say, you emailed Alessia 5 days ago. Did you want to remind her about this? And then you can click and it'll take you into the email and then you can go ahead and remind. So that's a great feature.
And probably on the other side, I would also receive a nudge.
Yeah, but you haven't replied to my email.
Exactly. The email looks like I need to take an action on something, but I didn't follow up.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Let me show a couple of other things in email that I find super helpful. Undo send. This is maybe one of the most important Gmail settings you will ever enable. If you've ever had an email that you've sent where you've realized after you've clicked the send button that like you spelled your own name wrong in your signature, or you forgot to link something, or you forgot to add somebody in to the email, undo send is the savior. I think on my email, I have it set at either 20 or 30 seconds. It's also a really good gut check, because if you send something and then like a second later, you're like, I shouldn't have worded it like that, this helps you get it back. So if you have the send cancellation period set to a couple of seconds, what'll happen is if I save these changes and I go back to my inbox and I compose a note to Alessia is getting all my email today. Here's an important thing. And then I just moving too fast and I click send. And then I realized like, oh my gosh, I didn't include a link. Down here, message sent, I can click undo for up to the number of seconds that I specified. And if I have lost connection, there we go. If I click undo, I'll get the email back. And then I can add in the link that I don't have top of mind right now. Let's say that I'm sending Alessia the here's the template to set up your own signature. And I'm gonna hyperlink this whole phrase, and I'm gonna put in the URL, and now I'm gonna send it. Now I don't have to worry about it. If you never click undo in the number of seconds you specified, that email will show up in Alessia's inbox. So that's a really important tip as well. All right. Last but not least, one more question. Will those groups I create show up when I schedule meet sessions? They should. You should be able to, well, so in Calendar, for example, you can invite a group to a calendar invite, and then that'll have a Google Meet link in that invite. And anyone who's in the group will get the calendar invite and then be able to access that Google Meet link. So great question. Okay, well, obviously I'm excited about Gmail and Inbox Zero and being organized, so I could talk about this forever, but I'm sure everyone has to get back to other things. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully We answered some good tips for you, and best of luck organizing all of your email going into the new year.
Thanks, Meredith, for the great presentation. We're going to keep the chat open for a couple of seconds, so in case there are questions that are still being answered. Important thing, we post most of our external engagements, whether it's live streams or resources that we create for nonprofits, on our social channels. So make sure you do follow our social channels and you engage with them, because we try to make sure that we share relevant content. You can also post your questions on our community, and other nonprofits might be jumping in to help you and give you advice. Very important, this live show was born because we heard your feedback and we knew that you need tips from us on how to manage inbox, or you want us to connect you to different organizations. So that's why we hosted a live stream with Giving Tuesday. So it's important that we hear from you and we know what's useful to you. So share your feedback about this session. Let us know what you would like to see in the future. And thanks, everyone. Happy holidays, and we hope to see you soon on this channel next year. Bye.